Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first work day of Daylight Savings Time. If your ass is dragging, well, in case you forgot, that's why. It's also why it's so bright outside right now at 7 in the evening, and why it was, pitch black at drive time this morning. We got to wait for the sun to catch back up with us now. We are going to dive back into some more crowd-funded comics talk tonight. And tonight we're going to be joined by a gentleman out of Memphis who's going to talk about his book, FRIAR Rush. I typed Friar Bush the first time I made the stream. I had to that doesn't sound right. But I did do a little bit of Googling on it, enough to find out that, hey, this title actually means something. So maybe you can elucidate on that a little bit.
All right. Well, FRIAR Rush basically is about an evil friar back from the medieval century, and he's managed to find his way into the modern world. So if you like that kind of stuff, and I understand there's a little bit there's some supernatural things going on. And there's, I believe a hacker actually helped him kind of make his way through. And as it goes, there's a concert from hell and a whole lot of action.
Well, they had the best musicians.
Well, this is true. Yeah, that's the reason why metal does so great.
Yeah. I mean, it's did you ever read Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett's Good Omens?
Right.
Yeah, he's like, there's only so much Handel and Beethoven you can take when the Grateful Dead's in hell.
This is true.
Yes, it is. So he's a hacker has helped him basically travel through time to the modern era, or
yes,
or has he come from the afterlife? I'm not clear on that one.
Well, I don't want to say too much and give some away.
Gotcha.
Because there's Jake, who's a failed priest, who's one of the main characters who has to go up and fight against the friar, and then there is Seraph, who is another character back from the medieval days, and I can't really kind of go too much on her. The last issue 1, we saw that she actually was really strong. She ripped a parking meter out of the ground and hit this demonic creature over in the face with it like a baseball bat. But you learn a little bit more about her in this coming issue as well.
Well, this is a very metal picture here. Now, this is a double feature. You're working through Silverline Comics, and they are kickstarting this issue. So you're sharing the book with Twilight Grim. We should have had them on too, just to fill out the whole issue here. But is this the friar holding the guitar, or is he a different character?
No, that's a different character.
Okay.
You have to get the issue to find out who he is.
Well, we're going to play the video, so I hope the video doesn't tell us too awful much, because we don't want to spoil it. Let's give this thing a play here and see what we got. I'm going to give it full screen.
Hi, I'm Roland, and I'm the chief cook and bottle washer at Silverline Comics, the genre-spanning independent comic and graphic novel publisher. And I'm here to tell you about our newest double feature. 1, 2. Yes, that means you get 2 sweet new comics. But before I give you more details, I have to let you know, particularly in this day of unfulfilled comic crowdfunders, that Silverline is 9 for 9 fulfilling our Kickstarters on time. That's right, on time. Much of the reason for that success is because our comics are finished. They're completely done. We might have a correction here or there, or we might need to finish coloring a cover, but the interiors are 100% done. We just need you to help us get the funds to print and ship. But come on, let me tell you about the comics now.
Twilight Grim is set in the city of Hallowed Heights, a town divided by a great wall. On one side of the wall live the upper and middle class humans. On the other side of the wall, called the Blood Zone, live the lower class humans and vampires. There are no laws protecting the humans who live in the Blood Zone. The only thing protecting them from death at the hands of vampires is the mysterious and violent young man named Twilight Grim. But the treaty which created the wall may soon be broken, and the city may fall into an all-out war between vampires and humans. Friar Rush is the story of a 15th century trickster demon of the same name, trapped in the modern world of New Orleans. He is devoted to corrupting men and women of the cloth and plans to devastate the masses by manipulating a corrupt televangelist. But reporter Jake McGlover and the cursed nun Seraph race against the clock and a rock concert to avert his plans.
Cool, huh? Yeah, we think so. And we're excited to get these into your hands. Frequent backers are familiar with our crowdfunded double features. We've done several of them. They come in the form of a classic flip book. You read one side, you flip it over, and you read the other, all in one. You'll also note some changes with Kickstarter itself. We think they're good changes, but if you've been with us a while, it'll take you a minute to figure it out. All of the original art and the variant covers are now simply add-ons, and they're not tiers of their own. It's good because it doesn't clog up the main page with all those individual art tiers. But it's also good because if you want more than one original art page, it's very easy to click, I want that page, and that page, and that page. It's different, but we'll think it'll be better in the end. So, give it a look, back it if you can, share it if you will. Thank you for your time, and remember, make mine Silverline.
I did not know that Kickstarter made those changes. So
Yes, they did.
that is I wish Indiegogo would do that, because there's so many shows I do with people who do have Indiegogo, and they've got like 37 tiers. It's just, and all it is just different ways to mix up the 5 same items. I'm like, why can't you just say book and then add on everything afterwards? I mean, you can on Indiegogo, but people don't utilize it that way.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Indiegogo. I know a lot of people use it, and it's especially used a lot with graphic novels.
Yeah, it all depends on where you find your first audience. Books that are of equal caliber, equal genre, one will do well on Kickstarter and not on Indiegogo, and vice versa. One will do great on Indiegogo, but get nothing on Kickstarter. So I don't know what the dividing line is between it all yet. But I'll put the thing back up here. So you gotta. Where do you come into the story here, John? Are you the writer and artist, or are you doing the cover?
Actually, I inked the entire. I'm actually the inker on the entire series. So issue 1, issue 2, and I'll be the inker on issue 3. And then I also did a variant cover, one of the covers for it. The last issue was Seraph and Roland, and that cover actually came around with. I was just doing something to sell at cons as a print, and Roland asked if we could use it as a cover, and he asked me if I'd do covers for the other 2 issues also. That first one where the guy's playing, it looks incredibly metal. That's by Peter Clinton.
Okay.
And he's an awesome guy across the pond. And the one I did for the issue, it's Jake, the character, the failed priest. It's actually getting colored right now. You see it right there.
Is this the one here?
Yes. It looks like it's got the stained glass behind it and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
I penciled and inked that cover. And it's being colored by Mickey Clausen right now. And then the other cover is at the book's penciled by Aaron Humphreys, who's done work with like Action Comics, and he's got his own webcomic Godlings. So,
all right, and it's written by
Cindy Williams.
Cindy Williams.
Yes.
I would not have expected that in a million years. given the content. But that I'm happy to see that. So, as an inker, what kind of input do you get to put into the book? I mean, obviously you get to read the thing as it's going along.
Believe it or not, there's no words on anything I ink.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. They put the word balloons on there, don't they? Well,
Yeah, it's all done
you might have no
digitally
idea
now.
what's going on.
Yeah, I don't get a script or anything. I'm a test.
Oh, you're freezing up. Oh, we're losing John.
Here.
There you are. You're back.
Yeah, it's a testament to how well the art tells the story, and you can. It's clear, and you can tell what's going on even without the words.
Yeah, well, I definitely like your cover here, so I hope you get the pencil. If not this title, somewhere along the way, at least something else. Have you done other titles? Where have we seen your work before?
Actually, let's see. The only other thing I've done is I've inked a little short story for 901 Comics Anthology, which I inked over Mitch Faust. And I inked there was a Steam Age Wasteland, just a one-shot pinup book. I inked, last minute I inked a page, pinup in that, but that's actually been it for the most part.
All right. Now, you did do the pencils on this alternate cover here, and
yes,
but you do a lot of inking. I'm curious, and I don't know how to word this without pissing anybody off. So please don't think I'm trying to do that. When you get jobs as inking, do you actually say inking is the thing I want to do, or do you go in to be a penciler and they're like, we don't need a penciler, here's a pen, and you're like, okay, second tier job, I'll take that?
Well, actually, I kind of went at it wanting to be an inker, because that's actually how a lot of the big names actually got into the business. Willis,
Ryan Wynn,
Wallace, the creator of Bishop. I can't pronounce his name to save my life.
Oh,
he came in as an inker. Jim Lee actually did a lot of inking duties when he first came into the industry.
Yeah.
And Todd did, of course, a bunch of inking early on in his career.
That's right. He was an inker on Infinity Ink.
Yep. So a lot of your huge names now actually started out as an inker. And I have found that actually inking all these different pencils not only helps kind of build teach you how to ink as it is, but also helps you build your ability to actually draw as well.
Because you're going over so many different styles too.
Right, and it's more. It's a little bit more than as the old. What was it? I forgot the Kevin Smith movie. But aren't you just a tracer? It's a lot more than that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, somebody was. I wish I could remember who it was. I was talking to one of my chats this past week about Jack Kirby, and there was a bicentennial Marvel edition where they basically found a story that Jack Kirby had penciled and nobody had inked, and it was due so quickly that they just parceled out the pages to like 7 or 8 different inkers, and you could tell how the story style changed, even though it was all drawn by Jack Kirby, but every different inker, it gave it a totally different feel and flavor. So, you get to drive a lot of the tone with how you ink something.
Well, and if you actually look at the Inkwell Awards, they do this. They send out a bunch of pencils to folks. It's the same pencils. Everybody inks at Blue Line, and then they auction them off. Every single one is the same pencils, and every single one has a different look and feel because of the inker that actually did the work. You can see the differences.
Now, how do you decide how to ink a page when you see it? I mean, what makes you say, I want to go heavy on this one, make it look like a dark mood, as opposed to saying, I'm just going to give it some thick lines around the body and make it stand out. because that is story tone that gets impacted by the inks.
Well, it's also trying to build depth in the scene as well, because you want it to look to give that impression of 3D.
Yeah.
So I'll like lines kind of get thinner as it goes back. The further up, the thicker the lines, but also where the shadow, the darker it is. So where you have shadow, even though you'll never see how thick that line is, like on this cover where the coat is just black on the back side, that line is pretty thick back there compared to the other side.
Yeah. Now, do you do a lot of your inking on the actual pencils, or are you working more digital these days?
I'm traditional. I'm inking over blue line.
Okay. That would be so nerve-wracking for me to not do it digital. I mean, as a collector and a buyer, I would always want the original pencils. I would not want a print of anything. It's just more valuable to be the thing that the artists touched. But to be the inker on it, I'd be like, don't mess up, because you don't erase the ink. You can erase the pencils, but you can't erase the ink.
Believe it or not, there's ways that you can erase the ink. There's tricks and stuff you can do if you jack up to kind of hide things or make things work there's of course whiteout and gel white pens, but actually an eraser will take some of the ink out.
I didn't know what you would use. I figured it was just like, oops, stray mark there. Okay, there's going to be a big shadow here. Just fill that in.
Well, because I still have to go and I have to be true to the pencils as well as what the pencil is trying to portray as well. I just can't go in there and go, okay, I'm just going to do what I want, what I feel like this should portray. I also have to read what the pencil is trying to convey, because he's the one who actually put all this down to tell the story. He did a lot of the lifting to that point.
Do you do how much communication do you do with a penciler before you start to work on something that they've done, like verbally or emails, or like hey, what do you really want here, or do you have carte blanche to make that up?
Well, I kind of look at it well, with FRIAR Rush, I didn't really get to talk with Aaron before I started, but as I went, if I saw something on a page, because there was times where I actually went in to make a page more readable, I subtract lines or do something different with the lines, or I add some to give more of a gray tone in some areas. I'd message Aaron and be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? He goes, yeah, and we'll kind of go back and forth there, and then I kind of go back at it. I'm actually inking another book right now, too, and I back and forth with the artist a couple times already. I haven't done it too much because what he intends is right there on the page already. Now, if I see something that needs to be changed or fixed, I'll message him, and I'll be like, hey, this right here needs to be fixed. This is what's going on, and kind of show him what I'm talking about, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, because and there's sometimes when you're looking at the pencils that you can't quite be sure whether there's. I'll give you an example. I saw a print the other day of a city, and there were supposed to be like 2 utility wires hanging across the front of the building. Well, the colorist didn't see 2 wires; they just saw a shape. So they filled it in as though it were a drawn shape. They filled in the color in between. It still worked. It looked like a shadow, but it was supposed to have been, something else. So it's like if there was a hole through something and it was supposed to be like, you see through it and somebody blacks it out like it's a dent. That's the kind of thing where I was, wondering how much communication goes on there to say, hey, what is this thing that I'm coloring in here?
Sometimes if there's something specific that needs to be done on a panel, it's written on the side in pencil. Like, hey, we're adding, this is going to be BWS here. Or there's BWS written in the actual panel, which is black with stars.
Oh, okay. So that I had not heard of that acronym before. So there's a whole jargon that you guys use to communicate in code here.
Right. Have you seen those pages where you see a bunch of like X's?
Yeah. I have seen that.
That's where an X is where you just go black.
Okay.
So and there's like anything in particular that needs to be done. Like if something needs to be adjusted slightly, and the inker can adjust it, a little bit easier. There'll be notes written on the side.
So the penciler doesn't bother just coloring it in with pencil. He just puts an X in there and says, "Hey,
Yeah.
everything's black."
Yeah.
It's time saver.
Exactly.
I know all the manuscript editing codes. I just never bothered to learn the art editing codes because I can't draw to save my life, so I didn't have to learn them.
I have a print from Jonathan Gluckton, who inks Greg Capullo.
Okay.
And you can see Greg's little notes on the side. And one of the notes is "Do what you do. You know what to do. What you do here. You know what to do here." Because they've worked together so long.
So when did you first get into comics, John? I mean, and I don't mean just professionally. I mean, like, when you picked one up and said, "What's this?"
Back in the 90s, early 90s.
Okay, so you one of the image children.
Basically, yeah. Actually, that kind of goes hand in hand because I decided that's why also when I figured out I wanted to be in comics.
Is it all the fame and glory and fortune that you thought it would be?
I knew it wasn't going to be a whole bunch of fame and glory and fortune. I mean, I just love comics. Yeah, the real thing that I kind of look forward to is to kind of have this thing where things come full circle, and the guy I got to actually meet and who actually that day solidified it for me. Like, he is awesome. He's great. He was actually the artist on Wolverine at the time, Mark Silvestri. I met him when he was working for Marvel still back and doing the rounds in the comic shops. And I was a youngin'. And, it'd be kind of cool to, like, come full circle and actually get to have that interaction with him again in some way or form now that I'm actually doing it.
Yeah. Show him your work and say, "Hey, look, this is because you showed me something when I was 14, 15, 16 at a comic shop."
Actually.
Oh man, that's great. And and that is when you decide pretty much a lot of the comic people decide to get into comics. I've actually run some shows with 12 and 11-year-old creators who are, their dad works in a print shop or their dad does comics as well, and they've got their own creation and learning how to draw. I'm like, yes, get the younger generation on here because that's who's going to be making them 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Right.
We don't need just younger readers. We need younger creators.
They need to go hand in hand.
Yeah. And fresh ideas too, because I'm reading the same thing over and over lately, it feels like.
Well, I hope FRIAR Rush feels quite fresh.
It does, actually. I love the idea of it.
And I know the artwork has kind of has a little bit of a 90s feel to it. It's actually, when it was drawn, it was penciled back in the 90s.
I was going to say, it's got a very 90s pencilish look to it.
Yeah, that cover right there that you're showing right now, that was actually penciled by Aaron.
Okay. And he does the interiors too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It looked like a very gritty Bruce Timm kind of style going. Like Batman the Animated Series stuff.
Yeah.
So, looking through the sketches here, is there anything I should look for that you're doing on the stretch goals here? Are you doing any other pencils?
Well, there's the pencils for the cover. That's one of the add-ons. If you want those pencils, there you can get them. It's part of the original art that you can get in this thing. And I've also got 4 pages of original inks also that you can add on as well. That's there you go, right there.
Yeah, I wish I could make these big. I can make them bigger, but I start to lose control of the screen. Let's see if I can bring that up a little bit. Yeah, I've lost control of the screen now. There we go. So, as a flip book, is this like a double thickness, or is it 11?
For the Kickstarter, you get a flip book, and then that's it. It's just kickstarted as a flip book, and then you also have the individual books as well.
Okay, so after the Kickstarter, when it goes into like diamond catalogs and stuff, it'll be
its own individual issue,
22-page issue. Okay,
just like this right here.
Here, let me give you full screen.
This right here is just a single issue. This is my cover I did on the first issue. This is the first issue with the cover I did on the first issue.
Oh, that is gorgeous, man.
Yeah, the same guy who colored this is coloring the other one.
Wow. I love that. I mean, there's a variety of art styles here, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not trying to suck up to you or nothing. I like yours better than the interior one right now.
Believe it or not, as when I was sitting, because I have a day job too, because obviously I'm not, real big in this yet, but when I'm sitting there working on it in my day job, everybody walked through those. Oh, those look so awesome. So I know there's sometimes an art style might not be somebody's cup of tea, but it's somebody's cup of tea.
Oh yeah. Everybody's got their own. I've never been one too much for the cartoonish style, which is kind of what I see with the interiors here from Aaron. But I'm not saying it's badly drawn. I'm just saying
and there's a lot of energy in some of the stuff he does.
Yeah, and you can get a lot more energy out of pictures like that when you go with the more cartoonish, the more exaggerated kind of style too. So I appreciate that can be done. I've always just been when it comes to artists in comic books, I've always leaned more towards the photorealistic, or not even the photorealistic, but just the more realistic. The George Perez's, the Phil Jimenez, those folk. But these pencils, very cool.
Yeah,
now,
every single pencil that he did is up as original art that you can get added on for the Kickstarter.
Yeah, these pencils look fabulous. As much as I said I'm not too much into cartoonish stuff, I don't know. Sometimes I'll look at a comic page, and I'm like, I'm not really crazy about that page. But then I'll see it like uncolored, and then even uninked, and I'm like, oh, minus some of the stuff that was done to it here, I'm falling in love with the earlier versions of it. And I asked Ryan Wynn, he's a inker we had on our LCS guy show a little bit back here about inking, and my question to him was, why do we still ink comic books when we now have the technology that can pick up the pencils from the page? Because back in the day that you couldn't really get a good image off of the pencils. You had to have it darkened, and
Right.
now it's like I think we expect it in some places to be inked. Charles Vess, I think, did a Sandman issue with Neil Gaiman where it was just straight from the pencils and colored on top. It gives a different effect, but I don't think I'd want to see it uninked all the time.
No, there's a lot that you lose in some of, I guess you could say the personality of the page, and some things that you gain with an inker instead of just being just the pencils.
Yeah.
Because like I said earlier, different ink, you can have a penciler do something, and then there's something in there that maybe the penciler didn't even realize could kind of be pushed a little bit more, and it adds even more to the panel. A good inker will see that and bring it out.
Yeah, I can definitely get that from the pages I've seen. I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's a werewolf in this story somewhere. and that's only because I spent way too many Saturday afternoons watching Creature Feature, so I've seen the Wolfman movies, and I know his name is Larry Talbot. And I'm looking at this man, I'm like, okay, there's a wolf in here somewhere. So, so how supernatural does this story get? I mean, we've got a friar. Well, okay, who's afraid of a guy in a cloak?
Well,
He's got to be able to think something.
well, as he said, he's a friar, but he's a trickster demon.
So sort of like Loki.
Kind of, yeah.
You're being very cagey, John.
I don't like spoiling things.
I understand. I get you. And see, it's my job to try to draw out a spoiler too. So you keep me at bay. That's your job.
But
let's take a look at this.
I was going to say that next to last page, you can see the friar yelling on the microphone right there, the second panel.
Oh yeah. Okay, so he's got an odd look to him. He's got like are those horns off his head there?
They're supposed to be kind of like horns.
All right. Yeah, I'm digging these pencils here. This is cool. And I guess there's assorted interior art down here. This is not for sale. This is just images from inside the book.
Yes.
Nice ride he's got there. Now, as the inker, you'd also be kind of responsible for conveying motion as well as depth, right? I mean,
right, and texture.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you have a car in motion, you're the guy who's going to put the speed lines and stuff down. Mm-hmm. Is there a trick to showing how fast something is going as opposed to just kind of moving? I mean, what's the science behind determining how many speed lines, how thick? I really want to make this thing look like it's moving, or...
Well, it depends on what you're going to have in the background.
Yeah.
And how close to the reader you're wanting to get whatever it's going to be. Because obviously the closer to the reader, the thicker the lines are going to get.
Okay.
And of course, if it's something that's going to be really fast, you're actually going to end up blurring the lines on the actual object. Because it's moving so fast that it's going to be kind of hard to see, which you see sometimes where that's done with the flash.
Yeah. I didn't know if there was a science to it, or that's why they call it art. It's it's done when you've seen it. Well, we've got down to the end of the Kickstarter here. Let me go through the tiers that people can get, and I can take this. I'll just leave it at the size it is. People can pledge without a reward. No one's going to do that. They want a book. So the digital, we start with that. You can get the digital version of this for $8. This is, I'm just going to say it's like a 44-page book, I'm guessing, because it's going to be 22 pages for each story, flipped over.
Try Rush is 24.
Okay, so it's more than 40 pages. It's going to be like 48 pages probably. So 48 page. Now, of course, the double digital is not going to be flipped, folks. You're not going to get halfway through the book and then have to turn your device over. It'll be just straight through.
Though if you do that, please post it on Facebook.
I've been down this road before with Roland. We've talked about the double features here. Back when we talked about Teen Beetle. So $18 will get you the flip book with the Kickstarter exclusive covers. So you get the digital double feature, you'll get your double feature print Kickstarter book, and you will get your name in the book on the thank you page. So something to show your friends and family, say, hey, look, I helped make this book happen. Now you can go to the comic store and buy a copy of it, but it won't be this one because it'll be a single issue. And speaking of the comic store, you have the retailer bundles. So this is where, and this is just if you're a retailer.
Yes, that's just for the retailers, because we believe in still trying to, we even during the pandemic, Roland was reaching, and some of the people were reaching out to, brick and mortar LCSs and going, hey, I know you're not getting anything from Diamond, but check this out, and if you like them, tell me what you like, and I'll send you some books.
Yeah, there you go. Be your own distributor. We're actually setting up here, John, as a sort of a mini Diamond for a lot of other crowd-funded books, where we do the distribution for stuff that's printed overseas. They ship it to us, and then we ship it out internally to the U.S., and we cut their shipping costs down to a minimum.
That's
then
awesome.
with the extras, we contact the comic shops. We say, hey, we've got these crowd-funded books that are hard to get. How many do you want? So we're trying to get stuff back on the store shelves, because as much as we talk about the industry dying, we really only mean two publishers when people talk about that. We want the stores to stay up. We want to be able to hang around our LCS.
Right, but and the thing is, there's some of the stigma that's still around independent comics when it comes from running a LCS, because I know of some LCSs. Now, not all of them. There are some that are great for independents.
Sure.
That are there, and Jesse James out there, I think out there on the West Coast, his store, he's all about taking care of independents. Where there's some that if you're not in the Diamond catalog, they're not getting your book.
Yeah. And I look at it from the perspective, too, that there's a lot of stores where, they probably have somebody come in once every 2 weeks saying, hey, would you carry my book? And it's obviously been done at Kinko's and folded over and stapled. They once they see a good book, hopefully they'll recognize that it's something they want to put on their shelves. I talked with Greg Shin, who does the Rascals, and he was pretty much in the same way. He walked in and was talking to the shop owner, the lady who ran the shop. He's like, I do independent comics. And he could tell that, her eyes were kind of glazed over. She's just nodding. And then he put the book down. It was like, oh, this is really a real book that looks like a comic book, and it's got good art, and it's got an interesting story. Yes, we will take this and put it on our shelves. But I've loved the indie market. I got into the indie market I grew up in Sparta, Illinois, John, which, if you know the comics industry, in the 70s, every book in the world was printed in Sparta, Illinois. Every comic book, DC, Marvel, what have you. There was no place to buy comics. Yeah, there was no place to buy comics. And you didn't need to, because everybody just brought the overruns home. My comic shop was the yard sale circuit. And if you knew somebody who worked there, you were in. You just went to their house afterwards. I had a relative who worked there when I was older, and I'd go visit him, and he would just bring these boxes down from the attic. Says, here's what I brought home. This week, just take what you want. And it'd be like just runs of Image titles and Marvel titles. And he's like, yeah, take this and this and this. I'd come home with a big. I'd take like a stack of 10. I'm like, can I have these? He's like, get through the box. So he sent me home with like foot-high stacks. He's like, seriously, take books.
Man, what I would have done been able to do that.
It was a golden age. But
yes.
But I didn't know there were independent comics until early 80s. And that's when, it's DC. It was DC, Marvel, Archie, Richie Rich. That was the world of comics to me. And then for somehow somebody who worked there, I ended up with a stack, and I went through and I'm like, PC, what's Ms. Mystic? What's PC Comics? What's American Flag? What's this Captain Canuck here? And I was starting to get all these independent comics, and Mike Grell's John Sable Freelance was in that stack, and it suddenly was just like, there are options out here, and they're not even superhero books. So I learned to love indies back then. I still love my DCs and my Marvels, mostly DCs though. And that's why I'm trying to, I'm trying to talk to all the independent people that are out there now. Try to every night just to help them get their books out, because I remember when Dark Horse was independent. I remember when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was independent. And now they're like mainstays. So I want to see who's going to be the next big thing. Who's going to take over the mainstream industry as the next publisher?
Well, the good
And
thing about Silverline is that there's quite a few old Malibu creators that are in Silverline, thanks to Roland. So basically, if you liked Malibu, you're gonna like Silverline. It's a given.
I remember Malibu. I can't remember what titles Malibu had to save my life at the moment.
Prime,
I remember Prime.
Mantra, Firearm, Dinosaurs
Plasm?
for Hire.
Oh my God. Yes. How could I forget the publisher on those things? Because there were so many independents at the time, I guess. But yeah. I remember Prime. Prime was like Shazam, but he had like this gooey plasm stuff that built his body up to
Right.
ridiculous proportions.
And it went places that Shazam didn't go. It's story wise, which made it actually so much better than Shazam was.
Oh yeah, because there were a lot more repercussions to his changes too. Herwenberg's in the chat. He's our wrencher. He said Jesse James is the best. He stopped dealing with Diamond entirely, just carries indies, going direct and does back issues, and is killing it on Jen King's comic book shopping network. Full praise.
Yes, he is. Jesse James is awesome.
And Herwenberg, by the way, has his own independent comic called Herwenberg, which is sort of like the AC Fem Force. It's set in Herwenberg. It's female heroes, and he runs a side media thing where he actually does live action episodes that complement the comic. So he's got actresses in cosplay doing these action scenes. So he was MCU before MCU.
That's awesome.
He's still doing it. Got introduced to indies with Love and Rockets around 82 and 83, and Kamiko, Pacific, Eclipse. I'll tell you, John, I was at the. I
remember Eclipse.
Yeah. I just got into Eureka Springs last week, and it took me a couple of days to find the nearest comic shop when I was in Bentonville. And I didn't have a lot of time, but I hit their dollar rack. And it was it was a lot of indie bonanza there. I only picked up a couple of things, but I remember these things when I was in college. Boris the Bear. Remember that old
Holy
Dark Horse?
crap. Yeah.
And I was like, it's Thunder Agents, which I've always loved, and Boris the Bear in the in the same outfit. I'm like, yeah, I've got to get that.
Oh, definitely.
And we had
I haven't been able to find any Boris the Bear anything around here.
Come on out to Bentonville. I'll take you. I'll take you to my vintage record store. And then we had Bill Willingham on the show a while back. So, when I saw Elementals in there, the Kamiko Elementals, I was like, definitely had to do that. I didn't know that Elementals spun off Aspen. I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit more.
I thought Aspen was
or Fathom.
Michael Turner's brainchild.
Yeah, but her character, I think, was similar to the water elemental that he had in the Elementals. I don't know. Her elemental characters all spinning off. And then Prelude Graphics, I remember when I was in college, too, is like a real low-level, not low-level, real low print run indie comic. But this was Steve Warren was doing the artwork on this. And The Survivors was like the last of humanity on a spaceship. And instead of being like Babylon 5, it was like there were only 7 people to keep track of, so it was a lot easier.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the interior artwork on this stuff was it was like newspaper stripped action adventure stuff.
Yeah, all the old Silverline books from back in the late 80s and 90s were all black and white newsprint interiors.
It's still a valid way. Well, Alterna does everything on newsprint now. And still have been. That's why they sell for $1.95 or thereabouts. So it's still a viable alternative to printing on. Yeah, I got to the retailer tier here. I should actually show the screen back up here again. Brought it down to show the comics. If you pledge $25 or more, you get the double digital, the flipbook And you get a signature card. Now, what is this? Okay, this is a signature card signed by Twilight Grim writer R.A. Jones.
Uh-huh.
So is this like a print postcard, or is this just like,
It's like from what I can tell, what I see on it, it's just a card that he has signed. Like he's going to sign he's signing a bunch of them and sending them over to Roland.
Okay. And you can just put that in your book and keep it with it. And then you get an early bird. Oh, the early bird's all gone. No point looking at the early bird, guys. Oh, thank you. See, Heroinberg is also my fact checker. The guy's quicker than Google. The elementals did not come up with. Those are two different fathoms, just FYI. Well, I learned it from Bill, so I'll blame him. Or I probably misunderstood what he was saying. All right. So, is there anything else about the book that you can tell us about that we can ask you without getting spoilers?
Let's see here. Well, you can see it's very action packed and it's very well written because Sydney writes really good stories.
Oh, here's the. Dear Lord. Okay, now I'm really embarrassed. When you said Sydney, I really thought you said Cindy.
Oh no.
That's why I was like, I would not have expected that in the story. Okay, yeah. And there he is. Sorry, Sydney. I don't hear very well through these headphones, but I do my best.
That it does well without giving a spoil. Well, if I say a couple things, it will spoil it. It's really hard to kind of say more on the book without really spoiling it.
It is. Do you know how far it goes?
Well, we got one more issue.
Okay, so it's a 3-issue story arc.
It's a 3-issue story arc. Like if you scroll down a little bit, you can kind of see where Seraph. You can actually see her as a nun. Way back in back in time, probably
hundreds of years ago,
16th, 17th century, something like that.
Okay.
But it's that little bit right there it tells you where she gets her strength from.
All right.
So and basically it gives the origin story to Seraph.
Got it. And the title here, Rush Strikes Up the Band. Of course, this is Friar Rush, not, Jukebox Hero, which is going to be stuck in my head now the rest of the night. I've had worse.
Which you saw on the cover, they're rocking out.
They are rocking out. As another great. So there's 3 different covers here that I want to make sure we're aware of. And I guess that when I've done this before, so I should know. But when you check out, you'll have a choice.
There's the kick. If you scroll, I think if you scroll down, there's more options covers wise. I think, 25 flip book, signature covers, and maybe I'm wrong, or maybe there's an option on the, or actually there's probably an option in the add-ons.
You know what I'll do?
Extra covers.
I'm going to take it out of the screen and I'm going to just click through it. This way I don't reveal my credit card information. Let me set them back here. Add-ons. I'm clicking add-ons and it won't take me there. So, all right, let's just go. We'll continue on. I've hit continue. Okay. My internet is very slow. It's not taking me to the continuation page. Here we go. Now I can get to the add-ons. Oh, okay. I see what it's doing here. Everything is an add-on. Heck, you can get cat and mouse add-ons here.
Yeah, you can get other Silverline titles that you've missed as well.
That's a nice add-on that you can get there. So this is just the digital flip book. I'm trying to find out how to get, like your cover. You can get Twilight Grim #1, Friar Rush #1, the original cover art to right. Okay, so there's the retro indie versions, black and white interiors. Okay, yeah, here it is. So the variant covers are add-ons. So you have to. It looks like you have to get the main book, and then you can add on the variant cover. You can't just say, "Just give me the variant cover," as opposed to the other one. So, yeah, Kickstarter has changed things around a bit. That's going to take some getting used to. Honestly, I don't do a lot of Kickstarter over Indiegogo, and it's not because I like Indiegogo any more than I like Kickstarter. I like spending my money and them taking it right away. and
yeah.
Kickstarter's like, okay, we're going to take it out of your account in a month and a half from now, and I will forget, and they will try to take it, and it might not be there.
Well, the good thing about how we do Kickstarter is we run a short Kickstarter.
This one's
started the 11th, and we're already 4 or 5 days from there.
Yeah,
it tells you how long we're running the Kickstarter. We run short Kickstarters.
Yeah, that's not even a 30-day Kickstarter. So. And you're almost to goal. It was $2,500 goal. You're at $1,695.
I still hold my breath until we hit goal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then I'm excited and like, let's get to stretch goals.
Yeah, people love the stretch goals. I mean, it doesn't matter what you put in there. The thing about the stretch goals that's nice is that you turn your fans into your marketing team. Because if they want the stretch goal, they know that more backers got to come in. So they start sharing it out, saying, "Hey, I need people to go back this book so I can get this thing that I want."
Right. I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm sitting here sketching something up. And who knows? There's a chance that the final of this right here may become a stretch goal. This is Seraph.
Do you do commissions, John?
I do.
How would people reach you if they wanted to get a commission from you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, and you can also find me on Instagram. All you have to do is shoot me a message.
We will look for you. What's your Twitter ID? I know it, but I don't have it in front of me.
Do what?
What's your Twitter ID? I know I have it, but I don't have my Twitter pulled up in front of me here.
It is at John Martin Art. I got typed out right now. It says the artistic Viking Prince Voltan, because Roland. First time I met Roland, he said I look like Prince Voltan from Flash Gordon.
I can see that. Yeah. Well, big guy with a big beard, and Roland wasn't scared off. So.
Well, he's a huge Flash Gordon fan, so
Yeah, God, I haven't seen Flash Gordon in too long. I wonder if that's on Netflix. I'm gonna have to check it out. Anyhow, people, if you've seen John's art here, his pencils, we got to talk a lot about the inking techniques that are used behind the scenes stuff. Inkers and letterers are the most underappreciated people in the comics industry, I think, because if they do their job right, you don't notice. It's only when they do a bad job that it stands out.
I'd add colorists to that too, because a good colorist will freaking make like on that cover for the last issue, and he's working on this one for the next issue. He took it to a whole nother level, and a good colorist will do that too. Yeah,
they can. And a bad colorist will can just ruin the entire art. And again, it's every single person who touches it changes the original style and makes it something unique. We talked about how different inkers can turn the same picture into totally different feels. Same goes for the colorist. So Happy Jam in the chat wants to know what an inker does. You're going to have to rewind it. It's only an hour long, so it's not that far back. We got into it. We got into it pretty technical there. So go back and check out John's works and his words here, and you'll learn a lot about what the inker does. John,
At least
appreciate
the most you can learn in a short little bit.
Yeah. It wasn't like a TED talk, but but that is something that a lot of pencilers and inkers do on the YouTube. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I'm just starting one up where I'll actually have, because I'm probably not gonna do one today. I do an artist hangout with an artist one day a week, which is Mondays normally. And next week it's Chris Capana.
Okay.
I'm hanging out with, and we'll just be sketching and talking and whatnot. And because I'm on that artist pay, I've taken those videos after a few, and I'm starting a YouTube channel where I'll upload those videos. And then as this goes, I may start doing videos of just me inking or drawing or something like that. I'm slowly kind of getting into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who like that. I know Ryan Wynn, I've mentioned, he's got a show on his YouTube channel where once a week he just takes a penciled drawing, usually a head sketch, and he inks it, and he explains what he's doing and why he's doing it, and people watch it because they want to learn how to ink pictures. So, in fact, I think he actually makes the pencil available as a PDF so that people can ink along, and then they sort of email their scans back to him, and he puts them up and shows what people turned in. That's kind of fun. Kind of a neat idea. And then there's the other art channels where it's, here's a theme night, everybody draw this, and there's like 10 different artists drawing a picture inspired by something.
I joined in on one. Sean Crystal did one, and I was at work, so I couldn't join in during the time, but I still printed the pencils out because it was Mateo pencils.
Oh.
And I inked it and sent it in to Sean and the page where they actually did it all, and shared it with them because it was an ink along. Yeah. And Sean Crystal thought it was actually pretty good. So I was like, woohoo!
There you go. All right, John, appreciate you being on the show tonight and telling us about FRIAR Rush and telling us, some insider industry stuff on how this stuff gets made. How the sausage gets made. I don't think a lot of people really know or appreciate some of the stuff that goes on beyond the writing and the penciling. So good stuff to learn. Folks in the chat, appreciate you being here. We don't have a show without you. Be sure to follow John on Twitter at JohnMartinArt. Look him up on Facebook. And to get the double feature of Twilight Grim and FRIAR Rush, the link to the Kickstarter is in the description below. So be sure to check out that, put that in your cart, take that home, and we'll be back tomorrow. As always,